along here on the Racers Forum. Happy to be joined now by the EVP, Chief Media and Revenue Officer for NASCAR, Brian Herbst. Thanks for joining us here.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me. Thanks.
Yeah, we heard you on the panel, the Racers Forum, talking about the state of NASCAR media, and this has been a big year, bringing in new partners. How has year one been in this new TV deal?
It's been pretty rewarding to see it come together, frankly. I mean, if you think about 2023 was about the rights negotiation itself. 2024 was all the parts and pieces on the production side, divisional responsibilities, like how do these five partners work together from a marketing and promotional perspective. I think seeing it come together this year with handoffs from Fox to Amazon, Amazon to TNT, TNT to now NBC and USA, a lot of choreography and details behind the scenes to get that right. But when you get cool moments like a Amazon launch, for instance, at the Coca-Cola 600, and kind of that set right behind the fans at in the infield at the Coke 600, or you have the in-season challenge that kicks off in Atlanta. Like those are pretty rewarding as like both an employee and a fan perspective to see all that come to fruition. So it's been fun.
Yeah, it has been a lot of fun to see all the different broadcast partners and the way they do their coverage differently. Why was it important for NASCAR to have multiple partners now in different areas to see NASCAR?
Sure. So I'd say as content consumption patterns are changing, NASCAR or any property have to adopt and change to those different content consumption patterns. So like if you think about when we did our previous deal in 2013, the media players at the time who were buying sports rights, it's NBC, it's Fox, it's Disney, it's TNT, but a lot of like legacy media players, traditional media players. If you fast forward to 2023, Netflix kind of changed the game, right? So as more content was consumed on the Netflixes of the world, the Amazon Prime videos, you started to see sports move over there as well. If you think about how you watch television when you go home at night, you might flick over to an Amazon Prime app, you might flip over to Netflix. You may not just be flipping the channels on a charter subscription or Xfinity subscription like you were 10 years ago. So for NASCAR, or again, any major sports property, we had to find a way to make sure that we were with media rights partners that were growing from scale and consumption perspective alongside us as a sport.
I don't know if risk reward's the right term, but it feels like part of a risk if you go on a streamer like Amazon. You're wondering, who's going to show up, or is the audience there? What was the result, or how do you feel about the result after year one?
Yeah, so I think getting out of the gates, we came out of the gates pretty strong with Fox and then with Amazon. We had less broadcasts. When I say broadcast, I mean big Fox windows in 2025 than we had in 2024. So more cable windows just based on Fox having to give up inventory in order to make room for Amazon and TNT and that portion of the season. But the number of viewers that we had during the Fox portion of the season was level. So it was in 2024 and 2025, the exact same number of viewers on that Fox portion of the season. The Amazon part of the year trended really well for us as well. So it trended better than we modeled out internally when we were doing the rights negotiations. And it's a significantly younger audience than we have had in the past. So average age of a NASCAR Cup Series audience is like 61, 62, older than we want it to be, frankly. Amazon's audience was 55, 56. So you're talking about getting 6 or 7 years younger during that portion of the season. And then I'd say the innovation that we saw during the TNT portion of the season, again, in-season tournament, integrations with Bleacher Reports, House of Highlights, that's a way for us to get younger, frankly, from a platform perspective. And now we're in the middle of the NBC USA season now. And then like under all of that is a deal that we did with the CW and Nexstar that's now home of the Xfinity series, soon to be the O'Reilly Auto Parts series. That's destination anchor programming for the CW and the Nexstar folks. And that part of the package is up about 10% year over year.
What is something you still hope to see with the coverage? Maybe something in the future that you feel we're lacking right now on the media side?
Sure. I mean, I think what I always think that we sometimes punch below our weight is from a economic and an ad sales perspective, frankly. Like if we're doing somewhere between 2.5 and 3 million viewers per event, I think it's a deal for media buyers. What NASCAR has been historically in the past, what we've seen from the broadcast partners over the last year has been Fox sold out from an ad sales perspective earlier than they ever have. They sold out in December of last year. Amazon sold out of their NASCAR inventory in April before they ever got started. TNT sold out. NBC sold out as well. And they're selling out earlier as well. So I think like the fact that we have 5 different partners with 5 different business models and 5 different unique opportunities for brands to become involved in the sport in some way, shape, or form. It's led to a rising ad sales marketplace that will only benefit both our media partners in the short term and then the NASCAR industry in the long term.
Continuing on here at the Racers Forum, nice to be joined by the president of Richard Childress Racing, Mike Verlander. Thanks for joining us here. It's been a really fun day so far.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. It's a really cool event, I think unique event where we get a lot of people in the room. We're used to being together in garages, so it's nice to be in an air-conditioned environment today.
That is nice, yeah. So you oversee, obviously, all the day-to-day operations at RCR. Take us through a week, what it looks like for you, what all your job entails.
Yeah, a lot of exciting stuff. I'll say, you know, most people, when you think of RCR, you think of the NASCAR team, and that's obviously the chief reason we do what we do, and that's what's most important to Richard. If you start to peel back the layer of what RCR, the enterprise is, and that's what we're really trying to spend a lot of time on now growing, it consists of obviously the race team, but we have a manufacturing solutions business, and we're building custom vehicles for Department of Defense, Special Operations Command, a lot of things that we've taken the skill set and the labor force that is really good at what they do building race cars, and now we're trying to apply it outside of motorsports. We have ECR engine business, which obviously most people understand engines in racing, but we're doing a lot of stuff in the real world as well, and in the energy sector, trying to do some things that are maybe outside of motorsports a little bit, and a number of other valve spring companies, et cetera, is where we're focused day in, day out. There's no denying it with Richard in the building. We're here to focus on NASCAR, but I spend a lot of my time trying to grow the business outside of motorsports because there's great revenue opportunities there.
When you're trying to grow that thing and fill every bucket, how important, though, is the winning aspect and the marketing side that comes from winning a race with RCR?
Huge. It is massive, and that's one thing we're trying to put a lot of focus on this year. We're in a bit of a transition in a positive way where there's folks who have been at RCR really since day one. We have a gentleman on payroll who's been there over 40 years, but then we have some new folks coming in. So we're trying to blend how things have been done to maybe adapt a little bit to how things will be done and meet in the middle there and find that sweet spot. I think the win this year at Richmond was huge. It's such a shot in the arm. Yes, for the partners, but also for the 400 plus employees to see, hey, the way we're doing it, every weekend may not be perfect, but when you do find a perfect weekend, it rewards everybody.
You have experience, obviously, working in Stewart Haas Racing, Kyle Busch Motorsports. When you came to RCR, though, I know it was a focus for you to learn more about the competition side. Why was that?
Well, I think at the end of the day, no matter the business, whether you're making widgets, race cars, or a marketing agency, it comes down to people, right? And so you got to understand the people. You got to understand the roles they're in. I am the last person that will raise my hand when it says, you know, how do we fix this race car? I don't know race cars, never have, likely never will. But I think getting people in the right spots, empowering people to make decisions, making sure they have the resources they need where we can serve them and make sure whether it's parts, people, process, we're there to get them the tools they need, metaphorical tools. That's where I spend most of my time on the competition side. I try and stay out of the way when it comes to the speed, though.
But you do have one of the most important people, I think, in all of the sport, and that's Kyle Busch.
Sure.
And to use his talent and to get him as successful as possible, how can you help that situation?
Kyle helps you on a number of levels, right? He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. The building we're in now, he will soon have his face in this building. What Kyle does is he is immediate credibility, for lack of a better word, right? When we're recruiting young folks, and we'll talk about our workforce here later on today, but when you're recruiting young folks, it's important for them to know that there's a first ballot Hall of Famer, a guy who's won 200 NASCAR races across the series in the building. He also validates what we're doing moving forward with partners, with our OEM, with General Motors. Kyle represents so much, yes, on the sponsorship side, but also to personnel that it would take all night to explain how valuable he is.
Excited to welcome our next guest, Don Turner, who's the SVP of Brand Strategy, Marketing, and Communications for RFK Racing. That's quite a title, I might add. I want to start with, sometimes when we see teams do an expansion, it comes with some growing pains. But how do you feel like your team has risen to the occasion through 2025?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I've been in the sport for 6 months now, learning a ton, and I'm glad you asked that question. We had our partner summit in August, so I was trying to explain explain to all of our partners like how it's been going. And in general, working with my data and analytics team on the competition side to better understand some of the competition stats around that. And they shared, it's going great. Like, I think this is the best a new entry team has done maybe ever. And, Ryan's obviously an aggressive, he's been right in the mix of a lot of things. And we're really excited about the performance this year, as I think it kind of goes against the grain of what you normally see with the new entry team. And so we're excited for what the future holds.
Well, first of all, welcome to the sport, 6 months. We
Thank
can
you.
still say that. It's great to have fresh eyes on the sport, especially someone with your background who's been involved in other sports before.
Yeah.
What is the NASCAR experience like? What have you learned about it that kind of makes it unique that, I don't know, maybe you can tweak on?
Well, yeah, I think just in general, the amount of technical aspects to it require a lot of extra learning and drinking that fire hose is extra wide, and that sort of thing. And I think, the difference between like stick and ball sports, as I now call them too, and compared to motorsports is the number of people you have on the business staff is drastically smaller because you don't have to do things like sell tickets because, the tracks and there's other NASCAR folks that handle those type of things. Whereas if you're on the Carolina Panthers, you're responsible for your venue, you're responsible for your ticket sales and all of those things. So we have the majority of our staff focused on how do we make the cars go faster and how do we win and more championships and races and that sort of thing. While we have a much smaller group focused on the partnerships, the activations, the fan engagement, all the things that happen off the track.
With all of your experience in other sports, what is something maybe that has surprised you about coming over to the motorsports and NASCAR side of things?
Gosh, I think not that it should be surprising, but I think the amount of strategy that goes into a lot of the finer details, it's like the strategy for the strategy for the strategy, right? You know what I mean? It's like you have your game plan, but you have to just, adjust on the fly. And like the tire shredding a couple weeks ago, I was in Ryan's pit box and I was listening and I'm trying to send notes to our PR team about, some of it, because they're testing me, my learning and knowledge. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy. They're just on the fly and these split seconds decisions. And I think, yes, I think you should be aware that happens, but until you're really living it through someone else's eyes, I don't think you understand how intricate it really is.
This is very true. Yeah.
A lot of talk today will be about driver star power and making them stars. Your 3 drivers are remarkably good actors. We've learned that through their marketing, especially this season. The commercials are funny.
They are
how important is that and giving them the buy-in, I guess, getting them to buy into something like that? Maybe be a little funny.
It's extremely important. Partnerships are a huge part of our business, and we want to make sure our partners stay happy. They want to come back year after year. But at the same time, we want to make sure the drivers are happy because if they're not happy and having fun, then they're going to grumble and not want to do things. We're very fortunate. All 3 of our drivers are fantastic guys. They all have their unique personalities, but they all deserve an Oscar, I think. I mean, Brad in the Back to the Future spot that NASCAR did, I think surprised a lot of folks. And then the new Trimble spot that we put out with Chris and Ryan. I mean, so hilarious. And the idea that you can see their personalities shine through is, I think, really important. And I was thinking about it earlier. And someone on an earlier panel talked about how, our drivers, you can't see them because they're in the cars. I think if it's similar to the NFL, where the guys are in their helmets, right? And so the NFL has this helmets off strategy, where it's like, how do we get to tell the personality stories and get people to see them for, who they are as a human to help make sure you have that type level of engagement deepen, right? And I think it's the same in our sport, and that's why it's really important for our guys to be able to do that helmets off strategy. It's great in their fire suits without, the headwear, so that they can, have the facials, be able to show up their personalities, and really engage with folks in a much deeper manner.
One of your drivers, of course, is Brad Keselowski, who's one of the few doing the driver-owner role, former champion, of course, in the Cup Series. What's it been like working with Brad and just watching him manage all of the things that he has on his plate?
First of all, I don't know how he does it.
I don't either.
Right, just the weekly schedule alone. Brad's awesome. He's fantastic to work with. He's a visionary. Yes. He's a great businessman. And I think he's got tons of ideas that we've yet to even scratch the surface on. So I think the future's really bright under his direction.
Welcome back to our coverage here at Racers Forum. So excited to have the owner of Trackhouse, Justin Marks, joining us now. Always good to see you. I guess what I want to start with is just an overview of how the season has been, an assessment on the 2025 year.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it holistically across all 3 of our cars and the things that we pay attention to, we certainly have some rebuilding to do. I mean, we've lacked in speed a number of ways this year. I think what you're seeing now is when the new car came in 2022 and everything was kind of wide open, there was a lot of different winners, and now we're in 2025, and some of those bigger teams have really sort of taken control of success in the series. So when we break down our performance on sort of the micro level from kind of a preparation and data standpoint, qualifying, execution, things like that, we have some work to do. With that being said, it's our winningest season that we've ever had. We've won 5 races this year, which is great. Shane obviously, owning the road courses has been great for the business, and Ross had a wonderful win at Charlotte earlier this year. So, it's been good. We've gotten cars in victory lane. We've been able to win races, but that week-to-week performance is really kind of the important thing, and it's what we're working really hard right now to improve on. So.
I'm glad you brought up Shane, because sometimes we might think within our borders here in NASCAR, right, about being in the North American sport. What has Shane's winning, him being a part of the team, his exposure, what has that done for your team, maybe the sport in general?
Yeah, well, I think for us, we get excited about stories. We get excited about doing things that the sport hasn't seen before. And I think bringing Shane in, it's like, there's teams that have done this experiment before, bringing in drivers from other disciplines and other parts of the world, and with limited success. When Shane came to Chicago in 2023, it's not just the win that he had there. It was his intelligence, his how he prepares, his personality. We really looked at that and went like, we might be able to bring this guy over here and just throw him in the hornet's nest on these ovals and really believe that he can figure it out. So it's been great seeing that come together and having a really unique personality in the series, and be able to deliver something on the race weekends that hasn't really been seen. Not just his performance, but his culture and his accent and the stories that he tells and kind of all that thing. So that's been a great success. I think what I'm more excited about is his development on the ovals. I mean, he's starting to get the ovals figured out. He ran 14th at Richmond. He ran top 5 at New Hampshire. He had a top 10 finish at Kansas Sunday. And that's really exciting, because we didn't look at him as like a one-trick pony. I mean, we looked at him as an opportunity to really build a competitive Cup Series driver, be able to win on the road courses, but then be competitive on the ovals and have really another bullet in our gun. So it's been great for the race team to have somebody like that's so unique and has a new way of approaching racing. I know that Ross and Daniel have really enjoyed working with him. And we signed him to a contract extension because we really believe that this is a guy that can win a lot of races and be competitive on all the different types of racetracks. So it's been nice to see a plan come together. So NASCAR as a sport is something that is really interesting and compelling for a lot of race car drivers around the world. And a lot of them want to try it because it's so unique and the competition's so good. And I think hopefully we've opened that door a little bit to sort of show everybody that it's possible. If you curate the experience for these guys and you set them up for success, that you can do really cool and unique things. So yeah, I think we've seen some competitive response out of it. My hope is that it kind of greases the gears a little bit to make this sport more accessible and attract more world-class talent from around the world.
The culture at Trackhouse is very unique. I even think about the pit crews and the funny videos they do and things like that. Why was it important for you to create a culture that is drastically different from a lot of race teams?
Well, I use this phrase a lot of storytelling, and I think that a lot of these race teams get so focused on just making the race cars fast and just focusing on winning races sort of at all costs, and that I think that we are storytellers, because at the end of the day, the sponsors are what really drives this thing, and the sponsors want great stories. They want great brand ambassadors, and they want to be able to have really unique personalities and representing their brands, and so that's something that is that's been very important to us, and it motivates kind of everything that we do, really.
We're going to ask a lot of people today about star power and how important that is for the drivers, teams, going forward. You signed a driver, Connor Zilic,
Yeah.
for next year, who is going to
Amazing.
come with a lot of expectations,
Yep.
performance, and maybe even star power wise. How do you harness that expectation?
Well, that's a great question, and it's one that we talk a lot about internally right now, because Cup racing is like a different sport than the Xfinity Series and trucks. It's so competitive. It's so hard. We've seen a lot of drivers be incredibly competitive on their road to Cup, and then take them a while to find their way in Cup. So, it's about setting him up for success and making sure that he's got a support system and an ecosystem at Trackhouse that recognizes, he's a 19-year-old kid, and that you are dealing with somebody who, who's growing up and is sort of learning how to be an adult, learning how to be a professional athlete. So, I think for us, it's just making sure that we give him the tools that he needs, but let him be a 19-year-old kid. Let him have those moments and have a good, balance in his life, because, you just need to bring it every single week. And I think it can be overwhelming for somebody that's that inexperienced, but he's got so much talent and he's just so good that we have, incredibly high hopes for him. It's really exciting that he's coming in. I think he can be a huge star in the sport. I think he can win as a rookie. And it's, we recognize that, if you go back in history and you look at, Kyle Busch and you look at Jeff Gordon, you look at some of these guys that have come in, Kevin Harvick, that have come in and been, have so much talent and experienced success right away and turn those into really long, successful championship winning careers. I think we've got the same thing with Connor. So we're focused really on making sure that he, that he's got the opportunity to succeed and he's got a team that's got his back.
The future is very bright for Trackhouse. It's been so fun to watch your team evolve and grow over the years. Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
all the success you've had. Thanks
Thank
so
you
much
so
for
much.
being here.
Appreciate it.